Start tonight with something no parent ever wants to think about. Your child disappears for years. Good evening, glad you're here. I'm Ted Hall.
I'm Brittany Tarwater. 2 years ago on this day, around this very time, investigators began their frantic search to find a missing 5-year-old girl in the rough terrain of the East Tennessee mountains.
A lot of questions still unanswered in this case. Tonight, our Kristen Allen, exclusive interview with Summer Wells' father, Don.
Have you seen this little girl? The search continues this evening for a missing 5-year-old girl from Hawkins County.
Summer Moon Utah Wells. She went missing around 7 o'clock last night.
Having to spend a second night alone, barefoot, in some of East Tennessee's toughest terrain.
The 5-year-old disappeared from her home in a remote area of Hawkins County 29 days ago.
Thousands of tips, yet no information in finding Summer Wells.
To this day, 6 months later, thousands of tips have come in, but still no sign of Summer Wells.
Today marks 1 year since 5-year-old Summer Wells went missing. The TBI says the case, including the Amber Alert, are still active.
The search for Summer Wells still continues.
The silence here on Ben Hill Road is almost deafening. It's been 2 years since Summer Wells disappeared. The Wells property, once filled with police, search and rescue teams, and members of the Wells family, now sits quietly.
I'm Summer's dad.
Summer's father, Don Wells, says his home in Hawkins County was once filled with joy.
It was really pretty awesome, you know. I always look forward to coming home to the kids and having a good time with them. I worked all the time, but I always loved to come home.
I visited the Hawkins County site of Summer's disappearance and spoke with Wells on FaceTime. Though he is out of town this week, he's remembering the events of June 15th, 2021.
When I got home, and there was a couple of police cars there, so we was really scared to death, and we was just hoping, you know, for the first few days that she'd be found.
The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation activated an Amber Alert for 5-year-old Summer Wells on June 16th of 2021. In the following days, 19 agencies and hundreds of volunteers were called in to help in the search.
I want to encourage the public, especially residents living in the area of Ben Hill Road, to check any trail cameras or security cameras that they might have that could have captured Summer on video or in photographs.
Unreliable cell phone service and rocky terrain created hurdles for law enforcement and volunteers. For 10 days straight, hundreds of people combed the most remote parts of Hawkins County to no avail. Saturday, June 26th, it seemed like there was a break in the case. The TBI asked for the public's help finding a 1998 to 2000 red Toyota truck seen near Ben Hill Road around the time of Summer's disappearance. That truck's driver was never identified. And that was the last potential clue the TBI released to the public. So how could a 5-year-old girl vanish from this remote area? How did she just disappear? Conspiracy theorists around the world have drawn their own conclusions, but none of those have ever been proven. The TBI says there's no evidence Summer was ever abducted, but her father tells us he has a theory of his own.
I think that this is some kind of a professional situation that took her and was probably watching for a while.
His theories don't stop there.
I mean, she's obviously not in school anywhere, or there's no record of her anywhere, so she's either, you know, in someone's basement, or she's deceased, or we just don't know, or in another country. I think it's fairly easy to get anything out of the country, in my opinion. It's not easy to get into the country, but it sure is easy to get out of the country.
2 years later, Wells says the only evidence he's aware of is that a police dog tracked Summer's scent here to Ben Hill Road. He does believe somebody took her, but he doesn't know whether or not she's still alive. Do you believe Summer's still alive?
I have no idea. I have no clue. If she is, I mean, I really don't know. There's no way of telling.
There are still very few clues, despite investigators working thousands of hours on this case. Numerous search warrants, cell phone data analyzed, and other evidence collected, and not one sign of Summer. Wells says he spent hundreds of sleepless nights wondering where his little girl is, so I asked him. Do you know what happened to Summer?
I don't know how you answer a question like that. had that question asked to me before. I mean, if I asked you that question, how would you answer?
The TBI says Summer's Amber Alert is still active and investigators continue to search to find her. In the meantime, this shrine to Summer sits at the entrance of her home. The TBI says it's questioned sex offenders who live in the area, neighbors, and Summer's own parents. Summer would now be 7 years old. If she still is alive, Dawn has this message for whoever took her.
The only thing I can say is please let her come home. Let her have her freedom and her life.
You may remember this. Kristen Summer has 3 other siblings. A lot of people may be wondering where they are now. Do you know?
Yeah, well, Don told me he feels like his 3 other kids have been kidnapped too. We do know for sure they're all 3 in DCS custody.
All right, TBI says this case is one of the most exhaustive missing child cases they have ever investigated.
Yeah, the agency says it's received thousands of tips, but the twist with this one is a lot of those tips are based off of rumors and speculation.
There was a big point made early on in the investigation. If you don't know for sure, don't give us your tips, because so much junk was passed on. All right, we do have a full timeline, everything that's happened in this case. You can find it in the WVLT News app. Kristen, thanks.